Okay, welcome back to chapter 6 of the In Search of Deeper Learning book study. Here we are making our way through, like over halfway now. So I'm going to start us off again because Phil kindly reminded me at the end of our last discussion for chapter 5 that I brought up the hidden curriculum, and that is from this chapter. And Phil feels passionately about this idea. So Phil, what struck you in this chapter about the idea of the hidden curriculum?
Yeah, well, thanks. It was on 278, and there's a quote that says the observation was the hidden curriculum in most classrooms is compliance. Classes socialize students how to follow directions, work individually, and satisfy the demands of authority figures, teachers, and that is counted as success. Those are the things that are measured. Are you following directions? Are you working individually? Are you satisfying demands that we're putting in front of you? The other stuff isn't measured. Right. So my question at Real World Academy is, what is our hidden curriculum? Is it deeper learning? I mean, and how do we keep that in the forefront of what we're actually doing? And how do we have that be the thing that we measure and that the thing that we wrap everything around?
Right. And I think that, it's an interesting question. I wonder if deeper learning, because I was just looking at, this is the chapter, interestingly enough, where they actually really go into their theory of deeper learning. And that's interesting to me because this is the chapter that isn't about the core of school, right? But they've got this picture on 300 here, which you all can see somewhere, which is, they're getting a little academic-y in this idea of like, well, we can theorize about mastery, creativity, and identity, and then come up with like this picture with this spiral. But I mean, I don't know, maybe this doesn't have to be a hidden curriculum. Maybe this could actually be the curriculum or the assessment, or maybe this is something that there are rubrics or metrics that it could be not shared with the students, or it could be shared with the students. I mean, if you want transparency, show them, hey, we are thinking about what are you mastering, what are you making, and how are you connecting with it?
Well, I think the term hidden curriculum was less about transparency and more about maybe not on the cover, not on the book jacket, right? Of school, we have English, math, science, but there's also a hidden curriculum that maybe not even is purposely hidden, but just is actually as valid as those others, and it is that compliance. And I wrote sports, by the way, next year, fancy little graph thing, because to me, it felt like that's how sports happen. You teach kids, and we all learn sports by going step by step. We're intrinsically driven to learn it. We fail over, and we fail way more times than we are successful, but we get to the next level. There's always a next level. That concept of, if you want to keep progressing, you can.
Right.
But you have to be driven.
And I completely agree with you. I think the idea of like, what is this kind of, it's the thing that you're teaching, but you're not saying you're teaching, right? That's the hidden curriculum. And so, this chapter was all about a theater club and how all of the things you learn from being a part of a performance and putting together a show and working with your peers, and the way the teacher worked in this chapter. It reminded me of my experience as a debate student in high school, and recognizing that the sponsor of the debate team, she rarely did any teaching. Like, she was there to support the upperclassmen who were actually teaching the lowerclassmen in my high school how to do debate, right? So the hidden curriculum there was, and this is something we were just saying, right? We're going to treat the upperclassmen like adults, right? And we're going to let them have responsibility over the younger classmen. Now, why is that not? Yeah, that's on the core, or that's not on the core. That's in the periphery, right?
Right. But yet, in the things that, again, kids really care about, theater, music, sports, there is this implicit concept of, if you're ahead, you help out, you reach down and help the youngers. And I think we've said it before, there's a Latin phrase, docio discus, which means teach in order to learn. So for time eternal, we've known that if you have the opportunity to teach someone, you actually are learning yourself. And so that's why we have that sort of apprenticeship model built in. It helps the older kids. They're not just taking weight off the teacher. You said something interesting. You use the word do a lot. What kids do, what they did, what you saw. And then again, top of 286, I underlined, don't talk, do. It's the first 3 words on that page. And that's what captures this. All of the learning that happens on the periphery happens because the hands and the head, as they phrase, are working together. There's doing happening,
Right.
not just talking.
Yeah.
Right. And that's if you don't do it, you don't learn it.
Right. I mean, this is something that I think I brought up in the chapter on IB, on the IB school. My experience with IB, it really, it made me recognize that, yes, you can do a lot of excellent kind of traditional learning. You can learn about European history and literature and Spanish and calculus or whatever you want. But I can say for myself, and I think a lot of people resonate with this, I came out of school not feeling like I was part of the world, right? I learned about the world. I didn't learn how to do stuff in the world. That wasn't the point of my high school. And I think a lot of my friends felt the same way. It's like you knew a lot of stuff, kind of, you thought you knew a lot of stuff, but then you didn't know what to do with it. And, I don't know, I think there's some explanation. Teachers say, oh, well, that's what they get in college, or that's what they look. I think high schoolers, as we see in clubs at the periphery in sports, high schoolers can do tons of stuff. They can learn while doing,
Right. We talked earlier, and again, I'm reflecting back into the last chapter where the engineering program, right, was it's less important what you know than what you do with what you know, that doing part again. But you and I were talking earlier that we refer to them as young adults. As you said, your phrase was, but we treat them as old. What did you say?
Older children. We just treat them as older children, right?
Correct. And if they're really young adults, do we hand them the keys of the car knowing that they're going to crash into a few things, hopefully at low speeds, right? Do we give them projects they know they're going to fail at? There was that one phrase in the last chapter where someone who fails 17 times in a row likely learns more in that guy's class than the kid who gave him the right answer the first time.
Oh, sure. Right. Well, what is learning but failing? Like, how do you learn something without failing? It's kind of a deep question. I'm going to set off all of your like insurance liability radar alarms and everything when I tell you that and maybe you know this, in Germany, like they're totally comfortable in their schools giving like elementary schoolers hammers, hand saws.
I have seen that. They're outside like hitting stuff. And the rationale is if they don't do it, they won't learn to do it.
Right.
It's just practical. It's a cultural thing. And I think at Real World Academy, and in fact, I feel like hopefully our curriculum partners feel this, but I'm going to reiterate that they read this chapter again if they haven't read it before, and that the concept of wrapping the core around the periphery rather than the periphery around the core could make all the difference in actually building putting a right sort of field for deeper learning.
Right.
Kids still have to engage, but
yeah,
the phrase they used it was towards the end. It was extracurriculars, in other words, are not just fun and engaging, but also highly aligned with a powerful mode of learning.
Yeah, I think that the challenge for anyone who's trying to do something like Real World Academy, or, you're reading this book, and even the way this book frames it is the core is the core, the periphery is the periphery, and you start to get that picture in your head, right? And what is a core? Like you think of like the core of an apple, it's dense, it's tough, it's hard to get into. Yeah, I mean, we all have to exercise an imaginative muscle. Like, what does it mean to take that out and put the periphery at the center and say, what if we taught everything around our sports, as an exercise, right? What if we taught every subject? And I know Harriam, if he were here, he would be into like, what if we taught everything around music?
Yeah.
Could you teach every discipline, math, culture, history, right?
Music,
Science.
dance, radio, sports, all the things that I saw Philip Rivers is coaching high school football this year. And someone asked him after playing in, hundreds, if not thousands of NFL games, and certainly like 60 or 70 college games, what does he remember most? He goes 2 or 3 high school games. That's why he's back coaching high school. Because that learning, that thing you want to do when you learn how to do it, you get good at it with your friends, nothing beats that. So that's I think we can do it at Real World Academy. Other
Yeah.
items. Did you have anything else in this chapter? Because we could go on for half an hour.
No, we could go on forever. I mean, I do think though that there is a, going back to stuff that we've talked about before and with the group, when this stuff feels hard, and I'm kind of a challenge to, the teachers, anyone who's watching this, to just think about when you've had your most memorable learning experience in high school. It probably wasn't in the classroom, and wherever it was, how can we make that central, right? How can we bring that debate, music, theater, whatever it was, sports? Yeah.
I love it. It's a great one to end on. Okay. Next week, we'll finish the book with chapter 7 and 8. I know, hard to believe. All right. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.